some, feel free to keep working on it. And if you have, again, any questions that you want to ask as we're waiting for all the other attendees, please feel free to jump in with the chat or the Q&A, and I'll keep an eye out there. I see something's already going in the chat. Good morning. What is up, Melissa? Good morning. I hope you're having a great one so far. I know I did. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you might have seen a video this morning on my story of the beach. I forget how soothing it is to go over to the water and just before doing something creative like this, be able to just kind of get your mind cleared. And so I will share that would be a first tip I would give to anybody is, oh, look at that. The beach is the background there. First tip I would give to anybody as they're trying to figure out what their business is going to look like in line with the new commission changes. Take a moment, go focus on yourself, center yourself, zen yourself, and do what's most genuine, authentic to you, because that's what's going to be repeatable. So I don't say that to be some kind of like, hipster term of be your own authentic self. I say that because when you are your authentic self, it's scalable, it's repeatable, it's something that can be done without a ton of effort, right? Because it's just you. So that being the case, I hope you guys take a walk, do whatever you feel makes you be able to focus in and create success for yourself. So we're already at the 2-minute mark. Still have people joining, which is great, but I will get started because I try to keep these webinars to 30 minutes or less. I know as realtors, you guys have other meetings you got to be at, you got other stuff you got to do, and my intention here is not to hold you longer than I need to. I hate meetings myself, so I try to only do these with valuable content. First thing to say is this is our monthly real estate think tank. So my job is to make sure to bring topics that are going to be applicable to you in the marketplace. Next month, we're going to be talking about buy before you sell. I might do this webinar twice this month just to kind of help the community out. And knowing that there's probably going to be changes after this starts getting put into practice that we'll have to update. So we'll most likely do this one twice. But here's a tip. If you want to be able to have really good, valuable hacks on what you should be aware of as far as products, as far as strategies in the marketplace, sign up for my newsletter. If you are signed up for my newsletter, you probably got this email without signing up for the think tank. This is the last month we're going to do that. Moving forward, we're only sending monthly think tank emails to our people who've actually signed up for it. And then the newsletter, we're just keeping separate. So if you are not signed up on the newsletter, scan this QR code, sign up, get that information so that you can continue to get really good info. If you don't know me, my name is Sosimo Avila. Technically, Junior is my suffix. Everyone calls me Sosi. Why I'm just going to share this is if you're new and you've never heard me share before, if you don't know who I am, there's a lot of accolades after my name now, right? Certified liability advisor, certified mortgage planning specialist, trained in real estate and divorce. I've taken a lot of courses on taxes and strategies and investments and all this stuff. But effectively, what I wanted to just share right off the bat is if you're a stranger here and you've never worked with our team, or if you were brought in by one of the other loan officers, my whole conviction in my practice and what I did here at this firm was create something that was going to help people think about money differently through real estate finance. And so I've gone through a lot of training, and everyone here in our organization has gone through a lot of training to make sure that we can speak intelligently into a consumer's life and into our realtor partners' lives as we help them grow their business. We could speak intelligently to them and help them make better mortgage decisions, whether it's buy, sell, invest, any of the three. We're all over it. And that's kind of what we do. So I train financial advisors throughout the country. I collaborate with tax professionals, estate planning attorneys, and with all the study that I try to do. Again, every month, my aim is to bring something valuable to you so you can walk away, have better talking points when you're speaking with prospective clients, and be more confident so you can go and impact the community you're serving best. So that's a quick synopsis of me for anybody who's a stranger. Here's our objective today. Objective, right? AKA goal. Help us all see that the need for high-level professionals is our new norm, and it's what the client deserves. So whether you're a mortgage loan officer here today, whether you're a real estate agent, whether you were invited by a mortgage loan officer and you're a real estate agent, right? Whether you've worked with us or not, my goal here is not to promote SOSI, right? I share that last piece just so you know where the information is coming from, so you can have that as a point of reference. But my goal here today is to be able to promote the fact that this change has now impacted the community where we should all be up leveling ourselves. And so I know that this is a challenge. I know this is very scary for very, very, very many people. But here's what I kind of want to remind everybody: a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And I forgot to make that boats plural here. But that's the concept here, that as I was thinking about this even more so this morning, and this objective started getting deeper and deeper as a conviction for me, I hope that you guys all walk away from today and go, the industry is demanding for higher intellectual professionals, right? Higher mortgage IQ, higher real estate IQ professionals, and the client deserves it. And so this is going to be an opportunity. There is a change, and with changes, there's always opportunities. This is going to be an opportunity for all of us to be able to step up what we do and really grow. And so if you have a loan officer you work with, awesome. If that is a high mortgage IQ loan officer, awesome. Why that's good for me is because if we place an offer on one of your listings or anything like that, the more that the listing agents, the more the buyer's agents are aware that there has to be more financial strategy in all this, the better all of us are going to be able to have as far as working relationships together, the more clients we're going to be able to service, and the more success we are all going to have. So that is the objective today. Let me make sure if there's any questions or chats. Okay, nothing going in the questions or chats. And just to confirm, can y'all hear me well? Anybody chime in the chat there or in the Q&A, whichever is available to you? Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Yeah, okay, good. I was about to say, it's going to be so embarrassing if I've been mute the whole time and I missed it. Okay. So let's all rise together with this new tide that's happening. What is our agenda for today's meeting? Number one, we're going to be going over the landscape, right? What's the landscape with the market and the guidelines? What are the solutions that are on the table for you, specifically this commission assist strategy? And as you note here, I did put plural because there's going to be multiple strategies, and that's going to be one of the components we're going to have to talk about today. If you do follow me, you know that I hate BS, I hate sales, I hate tricks. I'm not here to say, hey, there's this loan that's going to solve all your issues. What I'm here to say is there is solutions for right strategies that can solve many of the issues, and the issues we're imagining are not as crazy as we might first believe. So with that being said, will this be recorded? Yes, this will be recorded. Sweet. What's up, Paul? Yeah, absolutely. We'll send it over to all the people that you have, and I'm excited to see what their thoughts are on this. And then in addition, the third thing we're going to go through here in today's agenda is best practices, how to make yourself more successful. So let's start with landscape. What is the real estate landscape? I talk about this often, but I want to make sure to show a visual. And if you have been discouraged lately and you've heard this before, you need the reminder. What is actually the landscape for the consumer? Let's focus on them first before we focus on any guidelines or pieces on the mortgage side. The consumer was in a position where they were expecting home prices to drop last year. Here, this first blue arrow, this was in end of October, beginning of November. When this goes down on a mortgage-backed security coupon, that means that rates are going up. So we saw the highest rates we've had in like over 20 years. And so all the naysayers that were fighting with you at, family events going, you're full of BS, the real estate market's going to crash, all this stuff, they saw rates going higher and higher and higher. They go, no one can afford this. No way. It's all going to crash. Guess what was taking place? Less people were qualifying. Yet what we saw was prices still went up. Less people could buy houses. That was true. And that's what everyone was seeing as the anchor for their belief of the market was going to crash. But home prices across the nation overall, on average, went up. Why? We'll talk about that in a moment. But look what's happened in light of that. So November, we had the highest rates we've had. December, we had some really good low rates. Now we're starting to breach into better rate seasons. And this is actually about a week old. Last week, we saw rates get even better than they were in December for at least one quick moment in time. And so we're expecting that to come back, especially with the way that the market was responding to some of the CPI news a day. Long story short, first and foremost, let's look at the interest rate market, which changes payment, which changes qualifications. Rates were high and the market didn't go down. Rates are now low. And if you're noticing in most of your markets, you should be seeing some heat start rising, right? And if you haven't seen it yet, believe me, you're gonna. Borrowers went through this little roller coaster where we went really low rates in December, and then we went back up in April and May, and they've kind of had a little fatigue. Give them a few weeks of hearing that rates are now sustainably lower. You'll see the trend coming out, especially as we start coming into the next seasons. And so with that being the case, why did home prices not go down with higher rates and less qualified buyers? Remember, supply and demand, right? There was less qualified buyers, but what did we see on the supply side? still not enough houses to satisfy the lesser qualified buyers that were there. So less people to buy, but still less stuff to buy. So we still have too few little homes for too many borrowers. Why is this an issue? Remember in 2008, if you look at the average home buyer, or 2006, if you look at the average age of a first time home buyer, it's 33. 33 years before 2006, we saw the lowest births in the entire in the country happening there, right? We haven't seen lower than that since the early 1900s. And so we saw less people being born, which meant what? Less people were going to be able to buy their first home in 2006. And then all of a sudden this crash happens, which came bad from bad mortgage practices, manipulation on transactions, people who were unqualified, but also as that happened, more houses went on the market. But since there were already less people even alive to buy, what took place? An even greater crash. And so less houses being built, all that stuff. And what you see taking place is all of a sudden more people are being born, less houses are being built. And now we have the challenge of what we see today. Too few houses because of the crash that hindered more builds for too many people, because when you look at the 1980s and you start looking afterwards, even into the 1990s, we started having much more people born in comparison to even before. So I say all this to point this out. NAR, and I don't know if this is like a 4-letter word to many of you guys, right? But NAR did do a projection, and they're usually pretty good with at least the statistic pieces. They pointed out, right? Lower rates means lower payments for people. And because people are qualified on a payment, that means more people could qualify. So if rates drop to 6%, 3.1 million more households will once again be able to afford to buy the medium home price around the country. That's crazy. Guess where rates were at last week? I locked some purchase loans in the low sixes. We're almost there. Not only were we in a season where there was already too little houses for the few borrowers, but now that rates are dropping, we're having even more and more buyers qualify. We still don't have a solution on the houses. So I say this to show the landscape, guys. Many people are scared right now, but realize the show must go on. People have to sell. People have to buy. People have a necessity to sell, and there's people who have a necessity to buy. Like, this is the reality, which means that yes, the opportunity here is more success, yet the challenge here is going to be we have to go about it in a different way. We have to teach people why it makes sense to get out of this house. We have to teach our investors what we can do to help them multiply their portfolio to provide more housing so they can satisfy more of the buyers that are there, where the buyer's now going to win by getting a new house and your investors are going to win by selling another house, right? So there's so much in the real estate market that makes the country go. The reality is it's going. The question is, are we going to have the right strategies to make sure we ride that train appropriately and truly ride this next wave of success for the next generation of the professional, which I believe you, if you've been on this call, that's you, right? You're hungry, you're wanting to learn, you're wanting to figure this out. This next wave of success is all for you. So all that said, that's the landscape as the market goes, right? When we start looking at the landscape, yeah, if you guys want some of these slides, I wasn't going to go through all this. I forgot I left this in there. But do keep in mind, right, for these renters that are even contemplating, should I make a move now or not? Here's one thing I'll throw out there, and this is applicable to sellers too, right? Anybody who's like, should I move now or not? I'm going to wait a year. Realize that's cool, but what are you leaving on the table? They usually only look at, well, if I buy now, my payment's going to go, like in this scenario, $700,000 house is going to go to $5,400. If I'm paying $2,800 in rent, that's a huge jump. You're right. People only look at what's my new impact of higher costs, but they forget to analyze what is going to be my impact of savings I missed the opportunity to capture on, right? People only look at what's my new higher costs. They forget to analyze what are the opportunity of savings I'll be able to capture on. So in this scenario, this will prove it really well. Somebody is wanting to buy now, 5,400, wait to have a purchase price, and they go, I'm just going to wait till later. Cool, wait. With rates coming down, like we already know they are, I'm not reading any articles of anyone saying they still think rates are going to go up. If rates come down, even in this scenario, from 6.99 to 5.99, and note, this is just in July, the payment drops $100. Is it worth waiting? Well, maybe. Okay, well, what if I told you if you would have bought now and then when rates dropped, you would have refied and your payment would have been $500 cheaper? Would you want a $500 cheaper payment on a house that you're going to be paying a mortgage on for 5 to 7 years? Or do you want to gamble and just have a $100 payment that's cheaper? Your choice, right? And so again, the reality to bring perspective to consumers with their problems is key. And we're going to talk about that here in a moment. So if you want any of these slides, we've talked through them before. You can see what the rent versus principal payment is. You can see what the net worth comparison is. All these pieces are there for you guys. Happy to do these consultations with any of your clients. Happy to help you put any of these slides in your brochures, in your buyer agreement, in your buyer presentations. Whatever you need, let us know, because we're going to be here to help. So with that said, let's go into the guideline landscape, right? So guidelines. Here's conventional loans, right? The reality is some brokerages are already saying that their rule is going to be that the broker can't pay the other broker any of the buyer's agent commission. It has to go from the seller to the buyer as credit, right? And so if we're going to be looking at credit, here's the reality with credit on commissions, guys. Most guidelines are going to view commissions as part of the closing costs. There was a recent update with VA that clarified that they're supposed to be looking at this as well, but investors are still even taking time to adopt that. They're trying to get more clarity from the VA. The mortgage industry is just really slow, and they're not going to be super, super fast to catch up with all this yet. We can find the right investors and find the right solutions. So I'm not concerned on that. But what I do want to make sure you're aware of is what you need to know in light of it. If we're having concessions, right, seller credit pay for commission costs, or any other type of strategy, remember there are limitations of how much interested third-party contributions we can have on a mortgage, and it changes per mortgage types. So if we're looking at conventional loans and your client is putting 10% down or less, the most that they can have contributed to closing costs is 3%. If they're putting 24.9%, so little less than 25% down to 10%, they can have up to 6% credit from the seller. If they're putting 25% down, they could just be 9%, right? And one of the reasons why I put this, make yourself successful, is because I want to make sure we don't miss out on this last point. Those are all for primary or second homes. So if you're a primary or second home, right, and you're putting 10 to 25% down, here's how much commission can be attributed. The thing you got to be careful with is two pieces: investments, because if you're buying an investment home with conventional, the max contribution you can have is 2%, right? So note that even in that case, we won't be able to have the seller credit all the pieces for any commissions there. So that is going to be one of the hurdles. And then second of all, if you are planning on getting the 2.5% commission covered through seller credit, and then you're looking at getting another 1 to 2% of credit for the closing costs, for the other closing costs, that's going to exceed the 3% limit if we're going conventional and they're putting less than 10% down. So these are going to be some of the math mechanics we're going to have to play with. And this is where, again, the necessity for really aware and intelligent real estate advisors and really aware and intelligent mortgage advisors have to work together to figure out, okay, what is going to be your commission agreement? Are you doing a straight dollar split? Are you trying to do 2.5? If the seller's not providing that, what are we going to do? You got to communicate to us what the solution is, what the scenario is, so that from there we can show you what options can bring the solution for you in what you're customizing. And we all know this is going to change, right? What we're going through on August 17th is going to be version 1. By next year, we'll probably be on version 13B. Right? Like, we all know that this industry will continue to move around with it, but at least this is the parameters that you can know of as of right now, so you're not blindsided next week when stuff starts happening. With that being said, FHA, VA, FHA, the rule of thumb is 6%. You can have up to 6% no matter what the down payment is. VA is a little different. There's some different pieces on this, but a good safe rule is just to note you can have up to 4%. So VA, FHA, you're in a good spot there. Conventional, these are yours. So if you didn't take a picture of this, take a picture of it, have it with you, know that these are going to be the limitations, and just let it trigger. If I'm planning it, if I'm in a scenario where the listing side is only giving the commission to the buyer through seller credit, I need to be aware, is it investment? And am I planning to get any other closing cost credits so I can start avoiding some of those issues, or I can work with my loan officer to figure out what the heck we can do in light of it. Okay, so that's the landscape, right? That's the landscape for the consumer, and the necessity and responsibility that, or the necessity that they have for us to be responsible people to just keep fighting the good fight. And then the landscape for some of the guidelines that are going to be potential hurdles for us in that. So now the big question: How do you pay a realtor, right? This is a question I'm getting from clients all the time now. 6 months ago, they didn't know anything about the lawsuit. Now it's almost every single meeting I'm getting asked. So obviously there's 4 ways to pay. 1, cooperative compensation offered by the seller. 2, personal funds, meaning that you pay them out of your own personal funds. 3, there's financing options, which we're going to go through the commission assist loan strategies here in a moment. Or 4, you mix all the above, right? Again, there is no silver bullet. And I've had realtors even just ask, like, hey, the mortgage industry needs to do something about this. Keep in mind, the mortgage industry is regulated by federal entities. And this lawsuit and even DOJ interest into it are also showing that there's federal entities there, right? And so it's not mortgage not wanting to help. It's the landscape with what the government is putting in place is changing. And I think the sooner we realize that, hey, this is not something that the government's going to be changing for the benefit of realtor commissions, we now have to modify and figure out how we're going to be the most successful in it. The sooner we think that way, the sooner we can be solution focused. Not, hey, how do we finance more? It's what do we need to finance and how do we finance that for this client in this specific scenario? Right? That's the key. And one encouragement I'll give you guys is this: do know that most clients are not as concerned, or it's not as crazy of a deal to them as many people were fearful of. So, and keep in mind, people make a big deal of things that you make a big deal of. And so as we do breach this conversation and figure out what's going to be the best solution for your client, just keep that in mind, right? You might be doubting, oh, maybe they're not going to see I'm worth that much. And they might be like, holy crap, I can't believe that's all they're charging, right? It's probably going to happen less than more, but do know that they also will be in a position knowing this is how much they typically get paid. If they can show me a justification of why, if I pay X, they're going to provide more than that in value here and why, it's a justifiable cause. And if you can justify costs, people buy. So that being the case, let's go into some of these realtor commission strategies. And these are all going to be dependent and customized based on the scenario. So first one to go through, 20% down, right? 20% down. Oh, I got a question that just popped in. Make sure I'm looking at that. Will you share this video? Absolutely, I will share this video. No worries. I know how crazy the days are, especially on hump day. Happy hump day, by the way, everyone. So commission assist, 20% down option, right? First, we're going to show what the first scenario is, which is just, hey, it's offered in the cooperative compensation, right? Same old, same old. 900K purchase, 6.75 interest rate, 57 a month, 198 out of pocket. Cool. That's what the client was expecting a week ago. That's what they moved forward with. We were stressing that this seller wasn't going to offer cooperative compensation. We put it in the offer what we needed. They're offering it. Cool. We're all great. Okay. What if they're not offering it, or we're getting countered to offer, they're trying to offer less, or they're trying to push it on you, or you know that there's multiple counters and there's other people who are just planning to just pay it all out of pocket. What can you do then? So the first commission assist is going to be series 1. So it's commission assist strategy series 1. 2.5% is what I'm assuming is a commission. If you, again, agree to anything less, just let your loan officer know so we can then customize the plans for you. So I will remind everybody, now when you're handing off clients to your loan officers, you do want to make sure to communicate to them, have you spoken about the cooperative compensation? Have you spoken about what your commissions will be, and what is that scenario, so that we can plan accordingly and support you in that. So if we're doing the full 2.5 in this scenario and somebody's trying to buy $900,000, what we can do is, in this strategy, the rate goes up just a little bit, about 6.875. Their monthly payment goes to $59.65, and they're $198 out of pocket. Effectively, what we're able to do here is we're able to finance the entire 2.5 in the loan amount. It doesn't give them mortgage insurance on a monthly basis. They do take a little bit of a higher rate in this scenario with the higher qualifications as client, which was 800 in the scenario I did, and they're able to move on. So if they look at this and they go, okay, to finance all the commissions at 2.5, it's going to change my payment less than about $200 a month. Great, done. Right? That's scenario one, number one. The other scenario is, and the easiest I think that's going to be moving forward is going to be, oh, good question, Demi. That's coming up next. Is going to be, what if you put it in the purchase price, right? So remember, Demi, that one was in the loan amount. This one, if we put it in the purchase price and we go, okay, let's just offer $922,500 because it's $22,500 a commission that we're looking at. Cool. When we do that, what is the new monthly payment? It's $5,900. It's actually cheaper to put it in the price on a monthly basis than to put it into the loan. So let's try that, right? But what if it doesn't appraise? Well, if it doesn't appraise, we could do a different strategy and it's going to bring it to 59.62, same out of pocket. So if it doesn't appraise, we remodify the loan for the commission assist strategy. Their payment goes up $61 more than what they were planning on, and they're still out of pocket the same amount. So if it doesn't appraise, there's typically solutions to that as long as they're putting enough down payment. So that's option number one. Commission assist strategy number two is the 10% down. So this time we're looking at an $800,000 purchase price, cooperative compensations on the left. Same old, 56, 66, $97,000 is the estimated cash to close. Okay, well, what's the first scenario we do here? On the 10% down, if we do modify and put it into a loan amount, we will have to add monthly mortgage insurance as a payment. So the payment does go up to about $58.22. So it's going to be, still that $200 range. And out of pocket, it'll increase just a tad bit. You'll be at like $99,000 out of pocket. Yet, what if we finance into loan? Again, finance into the purchase price. If we put 2.5% into the purchase price increase is always going to be cheaper than financing into a loan. From there, it's going to be 58.08, so almost $20 cheaper than this one. Same out of pocket. Yet again, if we don't have the appraisal come through, what can we do? We remodify the loan. We still move forward, same out of pocket, but the monthly payment goes up to 58.33. So anytime we're seeing that the appraisal doesn't take place, or if there is appraisal challenges, there's typically going to be more solutions for you, assuming you have enough down payment for us to remodify the loan and keep that moving forward. So that's the first option on 20%. Here's the second option on 10%. The principle here is if we need to finance it into a loan, the monthly payment impact should be minimal and the cash to close should be minimal, whether it appraises or not, depending on how far it appraises. Last commission assist strategy is going to be 3.5% down, right? So I'm trying to show different series based on different type of consumers situations. So 20, 10, 3.5, like I shared in the beginning, this all is going to be custom, right? We don't have enough time today to go through every scenario. Well, what if I'm only doing $10,000 of real estate commission if they're not offering cooperative compensation? What it looks like then? There's so many different strategies. My goal today is just to show, again, the objective. We need to all up level in what we know, and we need to make sure that we have the right teams that are put together where the creativity is going back and forth in synergy to benefit the client and still make sure that the client gets what they need. Really good realtor representation to negotiate and protect them, and really good financing options that still allow them to buy at a payment that is responsible and a cash to close that's doable. So 3.5% scenario, cooperative compensation here, 650, 6.125, 49.49, $37,000 estimated cash to close. What's the first one? The first one is actually going to be a little bit of a different scenario here. The less money you have, the harder this is going to be, is the principle, obviously. The commission assist series one on this is going to be a down payment assistance strategy. We would use down payment assistance to help with closing costs or even help with the down payment if that down payment assistance program is not allowing the closing costs to go towards it. And then from there, they can use the money they were going to use for down to pay for the 2.5% commission if it's a full 2.5. And so the monthly payment differences, look at that. In this scenario, it'd still be less than $200 a month, and you'd actually be bringing less out of pocket. Now, we do know down payment assistant loans in most areas are a little bit more difficult to get the offer accepted. Yet again, there is no silver bullet. There is a necessity for us to all up level on our negotiation skills and all those pieces. And this is one of the tools you can use to try to do that so you can still actually have a solution for your buyer if they find themselves in that scenario where they have to pay for the commissions and it's less than 3.5% down and it's 3.5% down and they're in that type of situation. The commission strategy number two would be to increase the purchase price, put it into the price, $5,073 a month, $38,000 out of pocket. So see, what if it doesn't appraise FHA? That's where it's not going to be as seamless. At this point, there's not a lot of room to remodify the loan FHA if it doesn't appraise. So let's say it appraised at 660 and they're looking at 650, and now we have $10,000, but there's still another $6,000 left that we need to cover. If we take a higher interest rate with the way the pricing was that day, we're able to cover the rest of it. And so in this scenario, the client, if the house didn't appraise, their monthly payment is $4 more than what they were looking at in the original, and right around the same cash to close, give or take a couple $100. So all that said, these are some of the options to just show structurally. Now, there's other things as well. There's loans that we have that we can do where you buy the property cash, finance stuff in that, and that could be a different scenario. There is a whole plethora of options that we can do per your client, but it is all going to change based on the client. So again, you have a custom client and a custom scenario, send them over, not to just get pre-approved by whatever mortgage professional you trust, but give them the details of what the commission might look like, worst case scenario, and just make sure that when they're doing their pre-approval review, they're having something identified for them, worst case scenario there, so they can have it as a point of reference. And you can have a client that can be confident no matter the scenario, no matter what the scenario is on the house that they fall in love with. Okay. Last piece here, guys. Here's some best practices, and then we'll finish with the Q&A. We're already 2 minutes over the 30-minute, but we did start a few minutes late. So best practices, don't forget the ancient way to influence and teach. It's all about ethos, pathos, and logos, right? Ethos is character, pathos is emotion, logos is logic. And in our modern terminology for it, it's all about how we've been trained in regards to who people choose to hire and who people choose to work with. Those they know, right? They know your character. They know you're a good person. They know they could trust you in that way as far as character. They like you, right? There's been a pathos connection. They emotionally like you. They want to work with you. And then they trust. And trust is the one that I feel like in sales, especially the last few years, a lot of times we overlook this. We always said, yeah, people work with those they know, like, and trust. But really, as long as they knew you and they liked you, and a lot of times bad realtors would just be like, oh, the seller's going to pay for it anyways, don't worry about it. They didn't have a reason to truly trust if your value was going to justify the cost. That's why I'm excited, because all of you who know you're a good realtor and the value exceeds your cost, just like we do on the mortgage side with what we go through, right? All you guys that know that, you're going to be able to really go into the third option. So here's going to be my advice. If you haven't heard this from the Tom Ferries of the world and different coaches, if you don't have a buyer consultation, you really need to get one. And you need to make sure that your buyer consultation, in my opinion, what I'd offer you to consider is make sure that it's very clear on communicating your character, communicating why they should trust you, and in the midst of that information, thread through it your personality to make that emotional connection, so at the end of your presentations they do know, like, and trust you. I've been requested by a couple of our realtors to put this together as far as like a sample presentation of what we would do, because they've seen our consultations and they're like, holy crap, you do ethos, pathos, logos really, really well. I'm going to be creating that for some of our partners. So if you want that, just send me an email saying, hey, send me the guide or the presentation. And once it's finished, I'll send it out to all y'all. But do know the sale is now going to happen many times, either after you show them the first house or before you show them that house. And obviously, if it's going to be exclusive or non-exclusive agreements, there's so many variables to it, but the sale is going to happen a lot sooner. And the sooner you go into it with real value that overwhelms the client, makes them realize how lucky they are to have a knowledgeable, great at negotiating, great at helping them agent like yourself, the sooner you're going to be able to get them into that house with confidence, and the sooner we're going to be able to help people be more successful through real estate. So with all that said, let's look at some questions. If the seller agrees to pay commissions through option one, is that still considered a concession? Depends on how they're paying for it. If the seller is kind of going the traditional broker to broker model, that is just kind of how it's always been. But if they're truly paying for it as seller credit to the closing costs, then it is going to have the commission piece there considered. Yeah, on the down payment assistance piece, if the down payment assistance is paying for it and then they're paying out of pocket, that's where one of the loopholes are if your option was the FHA piece. So devil's advocate. Okay, so let me scroll up to make sure. So answered, what about the appraisal issue? Does commission assist one mean they will be putting less down and paying MI, or are you buying them out of MI? From a technical standpoint, it just depends on which one we're looking at. If you're looking at the 20% down, the MI was already built into the interest rate, so there was no monthly impact to mortgage insurance for the consumer, right? And clients who put 20% down, they're always like, I don't want to put less because then I'm going to have MI. Sweet. We just don't have MI. You just have a little bit of a higher interest rate in that scenario with the MI provider we're looking at and the rates of that day. In the 10% down, they do have MI still. I wouldn't suggest buying it out just because they're probably going to refi, but that's all dependent on what you and the client review. Devil's advocate statement, they're financing their agent for 30 years. Yes, and you're also getting agent services for 30 years, right? Like you are being able to provide for them, one, a house to finance because your negotiation skills are making that doable. And then two, you're providing for them a service through the business you've put together. And Demi, I know your business does this. You've provided them a business where they are going to have real estate advice access they're going to have the ability to tap into anything you need from them in the next years ahead, right? And give them case studies, guys. The best practices that I would encourage as you're building out your ethos, pathos, and logos in your presentations is client testimonials and case studies, right? When people go like, hey, why should I use your rate instead of others? There's two things that I usually lean on. I use sales interrupters, meaning I talk about, did your other loan officer even share with you what it would look like to try to get credit instead of just lowballing the house? Because you want to get the best deal on the house, right? They're like, yeah, I literally did this last Friday. They shopped three other lenders, came to me on the third one, and they were just looking at rate. And then I showed them, do you want the best deal or the best rate? And they're like, best deal. Are you open for me teaching you what they didn't teach you? And first of all, I got to apologize. They didn't even teach you that, but I want to make sure to be responsible to deliver that for you. Yeah, I am open because I want the best deal. Okay, great. Here's 2-1 buy down strategy. Here's strategy to increase purchase price. Here's blah, 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 right? Sales disruptors on your sales presentations are going to be crucial to show the client, hey, you're looking at me as a commodity. You're looking at me as just, I got to pay this realtor fee. There's a difference here. You're paying for advice, guidance, and an infrastructure that's going to facilitate you getting into a home. And then it's going to manage this massive asset. This is the biggest asset you've had. So just like a financial advisor charges typically on assets under management, I'm literally, if you're financing my commissions in, you're paying for the asset I'm helping you manage from a real estate standpoint. And so I'm always going to be there, not just as, hey, what's the handyman I should use, but I'm going to be reviewing your portfolio and helping you think through when can I leverage? Because, yeah, and Demi, I'm sorry to throw out any personal pieces on here, but you have a great testimonial of how you've leveraged from home to home and you've built a great infrastructure for your own family. That's case study. So guys, in your presentations, use sales disruptors and case studies together in a synergistic way to prove to the client from a logical, that logo standpoint, why you're worth what you're worth. And when you tell them, yes, there's a 30-year piece here, and that's effectively you paying my retainer so that you have my services and advice for the 30 years, great. Now that's something that's justifiable of value as long as you can prove it through the case studies and testimonials to show them why it's worth it. One of the testimonials I like sharing too, when I tell clients, hey, we want commitment before you go out shopping, as I share with them that when we do our offer acceptance strategy for our VIP clients, it brings them savings. There's been 2 scenarios literally in the last now 14 months, 2 scenarios, so kind of 2 different even markets in that, where we were able in coinciding value with the realtor, we were able to get the offer accepted for our client, multiple offer scenarios, $50,000 less than the top offer. Our strategies gave the client 50 grand more in value. Tell me that's not worth what the $20,000 commission would have been or whatever, right? This is where if you can monetize through case studies, a justifiable way, again, logos, why you're worth what you're worth, it's now logical, understandable, makes sense, and the result is they move forward with you. So, okay, so let me try to see if I can read through these. True, it's like paying for a membership with a killer. Yeah, I love that one too. I have a little nugget. Just like with listing and packages, how we show percent of compensation, I'm doing the same for buyers. Yep, just showing them why the different best choice. Exactly. West Cap Cash is a great strategy there too. Yeah, really, really good stuff. Great questions, guys. If they're, I know we're already 10 minutes over, but I hope this was super helpful. Demi, I'm excited to see some of your presentation examples. Again, if you want one from us once we finish doing it, I'm going to wait till I see how some of the real stuff settles a little bit more. Send us an email. We'll get that over for you guys. Again, my goal here, again, the objective is the necessity for higher real estate mortgage IQ is there. Make sure your teams are in the right structure. You're partnered with the right people because there is going to be a challenge. There is going to be a difference here. You have to do your handoffs differently. The handoff on the real estate side is a start to everything. So hand off the right information and hand off to the client, to the LO in the right way. Make sure your LO knows these strategies. And then from there, I know and I'm confident with 2 very intelligent professionals on the 2 spheres of making housing possible for this community, for this state, for the people in our country. There's going to be a lot of success to follow. So I want to say thank you guys. If you don't have my contact, scan and save the QR code there. My cell phone number is on there. The website we use to set up client meetings are on there. But let's do some great things together. And I appreciate you guys taking the time. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Danielle. You're so, so sweet. Excited to continue to see all your guys' success on IG. And if you, again, are not signed up for our monthly ones, sign up, which all you guys here should be. And if you're not signed up for our newsletter, sign up there. And we will chat with you more soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye.